Imagine a world with one voice, a single human family, living on a vast plain, speaking a single language. Their ambition was as unified as their speech, to build a tower that would scrape the heavens, a monument to their own power, a way to make a name for themselves and ensure they would never be scattered. This is the story of how that single voice was shattered into thousands, and how, centuries later, it was miraculously brought back into harmony. In the ancient land of Shinar, the people gathered. With shared words and shared purpose, they saw no limits to what they could achieve. "Come," they said, "let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole earth." Their project began. Bricks were baked, mortar was mixed. The structure rose from the dusty plain, a testament not to God, but to human ingenuity and pride. It was a fortress against the unknown, a declaration that they, and they alone, were the masters of their own destiny. Their unity was powerful, but it was a unity centered on themselves. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. He saw their unity being used not for connection, but for consolidation of power. He saw pride where there should have been worship. He recognized that this self-centered ambition, if left unchecked, would lead them to believe nothing was impossible for them. So, in an act that would define human history, God confused their language. A bricklayer shouted for more mortar, but the words that came out were gibberish to his partner. A foreman gave a command and was met with a blank, uncomprehending stare. The single voice of humanity was fractured in an instant. Imagine the chaos, the frustration, the fear. Communication, the very foundation of their society and their project, crumbled. Suspicion replaced cooperation. Anger replaced ambition. Unable to understand one another, the workers laid down their tools. The great tower stood unfinished, a silent monument to fractured pride. From this confusion, new groups began to form. Those who suddenly spoke the same new tongue huddled together, looking with distrust at the others. Families, clans, and entire peoples turned their backs on the failed project and on each other, scattering across the face of the earth, just as they had originally feared. The Tower of Babel didn't just create different languages, it created division, misunderstanding, and the very concept of the other. For thousands of years, this was the state of humanity, a world of countless tongues and cultures, separated by invisible walls of language and tradition. Nations rose and fell. Empires clashed. The echo of Babel's curse could be heard in every conflict, in every moment of misunderstanding between peoples. The dream of a unified humanity seemed lost forever. But a promise was quietly unfolding. A new plan was in motion, not one built from the ground up with brick and mortar, but one that would descend from heaven down to earth. Fast forward to Jerusalem. The city is bustling, filled with pilgrims for the Feast of Weeks, a Jewish harvest festival. But hidden away in an upper room, a small group of Jesus' followers are waiting. He has ascended to heaven, leaving them with a strange and profound command. Wait in the city for a gift, for the power of the Holy Spirit. They are confused, likely afraid, and unsure of what comes next. They pray together, bound by a shared memory and a fragile hope. They are about to become the epicenter of an event that will not just change their lives, but will directly answer the ancient curse of Babel. Suddenly, a sound fills the room. It's not a gentle breeze, but the roar of a mighty, rushing wind. It sweeps through the house, a powerful, invisible presence. The disciples look at each other in awe, and alarm, feeling the very air charged with divine energy. Then something even more astonishing appears. What look like tongues of fire separate and come to rest on each of them. This isn't a destructive fire, but a fire of purification and empowerment. It is a visible sign of an inward transformation that is about to be unleashed upon the world. Filled with the Holy Spirit, they begin to do the impossible. These Galilean fishermen and tax collectors, men of a single language and region, begin to speak in other tongues, languages they have never learned. The curse of Babel was the sudden inability to be understood. This is the sudden ability to speak and be understood. The commotion spills out into the streets. The sound of the wind, the passionate speaking. It draws a crowd, and this is no ordinary crowd. The festival has brought devout Jews from every nation under heaven to Jerusalem. Parthians, Medes, Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, visitors from Egypt, Rome, and Crete. A living library of the world's languages is gathered in one place. As they draw near, they are met with a miracle. They hear these ordinary Galileans speaking, but they are not hearing Aramaic or Greek. Each person in the diverse and multinational crowd hears the disciples declaring the wonders of God in their own native language. A man from Egypt hears his familiar tongue. A visitor from Rome hears fluent Latin. A merchant from Arabia hears his own dialect. They are utterly amazed and perplexed. Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? They ask each other. Then how is it that each of us hears them in our native language? This is the divine reversal. At Babel, a single language was shattered into many, creating confusion and scattering humanity. At Pentecost, many languages were used to proclaim a single, unified message, the good news of God's work, creating understanding and gathering humanity. The division of Babel was born from human pride, the desire to make a name for oneself. The unity of Pentecost was born from divine humility, the gift of the Spirit to glorify God. It revealed God's new plan for unity, not a forced uniformity of language or culture, but a spiritual unity that transcends all human barriers. In that moment, the Apostle Peter stands up. He addresses the astonished, but now strangely unified, crowd. Where the builders of Babel were silenced by their differences, Peter speaks, and thousands from different nations listen as one. He explains that this event is the fulfillment of ancient prophecy, the dawning of a new age. The result is staggering. The message cuts to their hearts, and that day, about 3,000 people join the followers of Jesus. A new community is born, not defined by a single geography or a common tongue, but by a common spirit. This community would be the starting point for a message intended to reach every tribe and every nation. Babel was humanity's attempt to reach up to heaven on its own terms. Pentecost was heaven's initiative to reach down to humanity, meeting people exactly where they were, speaking to them in the language of their own heart. The curse of division, born of pride on the plains of Shinar, was finally met with a gift of understanding, poured out in the streets of Jerusalem. It was the beginning of a new story for humanity, where our diverse voices would not be a source of division, but could join together in a chorus of praise, each in our own tongue, yet all in perfect harmony.